Dear colleagues, this eye has corneal opacity with hypermature morgagnian cataract. This is a very interesting case. I have taken up this case for surgery. Please watch the surgical steps. The main incision is being placed at a selected site. Now, a side port about 3 clock hours away from the main incision is made. Now I want to stain the anterior capsule with trypan blue dye underneath this air bubble. Trypan blue 0.06% dye is then injected underneath this air bubble. It is taken care that the dye stains all parts of the anterior capsule of this cataractous lens. And now the dye is washed out. We can see this is a hypermature morgagnian cataract containing milky fluid and a hard nucleus. I have to be very careful in this case because such cases may have weak granule. Viscoelastic substance 2% hydroxypropyl methyl cellulose is injected and it is sprayed over the corneal epithelium for better visualization. And now one more side port is made 3 clock hours away from the main incision at around 8 o'clock. And now see what happens when I try to puncture the anterior capsule. It is difficult to puncture the anterior capsule. However, after several attempts, I could puncture it and milky fluid came out. Now I use a 23 gauge Simcoe cannula to remove this milky fluid, and after removing this milky fluid, I will attempt continuous curvilinear capsular access. So the milky fluid is aspirated. Now SPMC 2% is injected again. The antechamber is filled up with this viscoelastic substance. Now I take a Utrata forceps. I hold this triangular anterior capsular flap and I go anti-clockwise, and I find that there is not much granular weakness. However, I do not go underneath this area of corneal opacity. So the axis has been eccentric, and it has been done deliberately because I don't know if I go underneath this corneal opacity and if there is a fibrous band, I will have a tough time to complete the axis. Now hydrodissection is not required. I am trying to chop this hard nucleus. I go bury the tip into the substance of the nucleus and then try to chop it. Now this is called multi-level chopping. That means I am gradually going to a deeper level and trying to separate the nucleus. Now I try to hold it here, but I got the anterior capsular rim and I had to release at the appropriate time. Now I rotated the nucleus, held it at another place, and I was able to chop it. Now I hold it here again. Hold it here again and separate these two pieces. So the nucleus has been divided into, I am dividing this again. So the nucleus has been divided into 4 fragments. though these fragments are not of equal size. And now I pull each fragment. I take care not to damage the anterior capsular rim. I bring the pieces at the center of the anterior chamber, where the anterior chamber depth is maximum, and I emulsify these fragments. Phaco power used in this case is 70%. Flow rate is 40 ml per minute, and vacuum is 400 millimeter of mercury. And as I rotate, I find that this is a huge fragment. So I have to chop it again. I hold it firmly and chop it. These are free floating fragments, and we have to hold it really firmly. We must have a very firm grip, very nice purchase over the nucleus to chop these kind of nuclei. And now I am very much anxious to emulsify these last two fragments. So I am using my posterior capsule protector. It has got a curved design which conforms to the posterior capsular curvature, and I am going behind this fragment. I want to emulsify this fragment, protecting the capsule with this PCP, posterior capsule protector. This instrument is available with Georgia Surgicals, and it has been designed by me, getting an idea from an iris repositor. And now I don't want to aspirate the cortex. I just want to implant the lens. If I implant the lens, the haptics will support the bag, and then I will aspirate the cortical matter. So I have implanted the lens in the capsular bag first. I dial the lens so that the lens gets nicely positioned. The haptics take their right positions at the equatorial region of the capsular bag, and now I am going to use my 23 gauge Simcoe cannula to remove the small nuclear fragments first, and then some cortical matter. Actually, very little cortical matter is there in this case, because everything, epinucleus, cortex, everything has transformed into a milky fluid. However, some fibers are there, and those will be removed now. But I find that there's very little cortical lens fibers are there. Yes, I got some fibers at 12 o'clock in the subincisional areas. Rhexis is small. I want to make a radial cut on the anterior capsular rim to prevent capsular phimosis. Since there is corneal opacity, I didn't go to periphery in this area, so I just made a radial cut. This will prevent capsular phimosis. And this is a very nice step. Whenever you feel that your rhexis is small, what you do is you implant the intraocular lens and then make a radial cut in the area where the rhexis is towards the central part. And now I make this final lavage of anterior chamber, hydrate the side ports, and conclude the case. Hope this video will help you in developing your surgical skills. Thank you very much for your attention.